Thank you for joining us on Africa 24 TV. You are watching the African Union Journal, a program which provides up-to-date information on happenings within the African Union. Operational since January 1st, 2021, the African Continental Free Trade Area has several challenges, including the lifting of about 100 million Africans out of poverty. According to economic experts, at least 75% of resources must be mobilized at the national level in order to have effective results. Roberto Bogby tells us more.
The stakes of the African Continental Free Trade Area on the continent's economy is stipulated on the 2063 African Union Agenda. For this instrument to be fully implemented, at least 75% of the continent's resources will have to be mobilized at the national level. This is, however, the fixed objective of different continental actors aiming at materializing the said challenge.
The time has also come to see if we can enhance efforts at the domestic resource mobilization. So work is underway to improve tax administrations across Africa, and the work is also underway to exchange information for tax purposes so that we are able to foresee elements of illicit financial flows. So with that, then we should be able to broaden and deepen the domestic resource base. So for now, Africa will need the international assistance, but we are also taking measures to ensure that we develop the internal capacities to generate our own domestic resources for development.
Africa now displays 87.7% of achievement in terms of agreement between regions. This places the continent in a good position to ensure trade in the continent. In 2021, trade ministers reached an agreement and acknowledged 87.7% of the original rules, which made it possible for 60,000 products to be commercialized.
The AfCFTA will boost intra-Africa trade significantly. We know that where the agreement is implemented effectively, we know that by the year 2035, we have an opportunity to contribute $450 billion to Africa's overall GDP. We have an opportunity to boost intra-Africa trade by up to 80% if we implement the agreement. And we have an opportunity to lift almost 100 million Africans out of poverty. It sets us, trade agreements are not, you don't see the results overnight. You set yourself up for the next 20 to 30 years. We know this from the experience of Europe, the European integration project.
In the ambitious project to definitely implement the African Continental Free Trade Area, financial partners' contribution stays fundamental. By the way, the Import and Export African Bank is very involved in the operationalization of the African Continental Free Trade Area.
So goods have to move across borders by road or rail. But we have fragmented transit guarantee schemes. So you need to have one that will become more efficient, and that is what we've done, again, working with the Secretariat and the AU Commission. We have put in place strong financing packages to support businesses that do trade. These are just some of the things we've done.
Let's recall that the African Continental Free Trade Area is the only trade accord idea for the creation of this bank, which came up from the vision of the founding fathers, which aimed at providing Africa with a continental free trade agreement and a common market.
The operationalization of the African Continental Free Trade Area will enable Morocco to better promote her products in Africa, with the reduction of custom duties set at 90%. A law that will enable Africa in general and Morocco in particular to considerably reduce their imports. Joel Ballo.
Since the implementation of the AfCFTA on January 1, 2021, Morocco continuously pleaded for more opportunities for corporate citizens. Regarded as the world's leading exporter of citrus fruits, tomatoes, and even argan oil, the Pan-African Free Trade Zone is considered to be the expected opportunity for Moroccan companies to better promote their basic products, goods, and services in Africa. A situation that is actually encouraged by the abolition of about 90% of customs duties on goods.
La ZLECAf devrait être un moteur pour le Made in Africa, pas pour importer de l'extérieur et inonder les marchés africains. La ZLECAf nécessite une mise à niveau des infrastructures, des lois, des textes entre les pays africains. Les niveaux de développement des pays africains ne sont pas les mêmes. Il y a des décalages importants. Et la ZLECAf ne pourra être efficace, utile, que si le travail d'accompagnement, le travail préparatoire est fait d'une manière rationnelle, d'une manière pragmatique.
According to experts, the distribution of Moroccan products in Africa will bring a plus face to Western competition, but will continuously have to pay the customs duties so as to integrate the African market in general and Moroccan in particular, as indicated Mouna Kadiri, director of the Africa Club Development of the Attijari Wafa Bank.
Nous sommes le témoin privilégié d'investissements considérables et concrets. Nous avons vu naître des usines, nous avons vu naître des joint ventures, nous avons vu naître des réseaux de distribution. Sans la zone de libre-échange continentale, dans ce cadre fiabilisé de corridors d'affaires, ces entreprises-là ont généré de la valeur, ont créé des projets entre elles et ont créé des investissements. Certaines se sont rendues compte qu'elles pouvaient importer de la tomate 5 fois moins chère chez le voisin que chez un autre pays.
In regard to the situation of local market, Moroccan industries consider the AfCFTA as a breath of fresh air after being offended for many years in African markets. Also, this new common market will not only encourage border trade, but above all, will promote exports and industrial development, according to experts.
Following the war in Ukraine, many Africans are stranded in this European country. Some are victims of acts of discrimination and abuse, a situation that has sparked a wave of condemnations in Africa and around the world. Here are some solutions to the current situation.
The Russian invasion of Ukraine is affecting thousands of Africans living in besieged cities. There have been numerous reports of Ukrainian security officials preventing Africans from taking buses and trains heading to the border. Faced with this situation, the international community calls for appropriate solutions.
Le blocage de certains ressortissants africains dans des frontières autour de l'Ukraine appelle de la part des pays africains une action vigoureuse. D'abord, il faudrait commencer par rapatrier les ressortissants de chaque pays bloqués dans cette situation, comme l'a fait par exemple l'Angola. Ensuite, il faudrait, au niveau de chaque pays africain, convoquer les ambassadeurs des pays ou des États discriminants pour leur faire savoir clairement et sans embâche que cette situation est intolérable. Ensuite, il faudrait, au niveau de l'Union africaine, initier une action qui va dans le sens d'encourager différents pays à déposer plainte auprès de la Cour européenne des droits de l'homme, ainsi qu'auprès du Haut Commissariat des Nations Unies aux droits de l'homme, en même temps qu'on signalerait la situation auprès du Haut Commissariat des Nations Unies aux réfugiés, pour que cette situation soit dénoncée et que ça cesse.
According to the Nigerian government, around 4,000 Nigerians are stranded in Ukraine and are mostly students. Also in a tweet, the South African government said its students and other Africans were maltreated on the border between Ukraine and Poland. For African governments, all those fleeing conflict have the right to have a safe passage, specifically referring to the UN Convention, and the color of their passport or skin should make no difference.
Les étudiants africains qui étaient dans ce pays ont pris eux aussi la route pour pouvoir échapper à ce conflit. Et là, on voit que en réalité, il y a un racisme qui s'est opéré à leur égard. Quand on voit la Pologne, la Hongrie, des gens qui sont peu habitués à la différence des autres, et particulièrement on l'a vu sur plusieurs questions de migration, notamment des Syriens, et on voit que en réalité c'est une mobilisation qu'il faut, heureusement que les médias étaient là pour témoigner de cette discrimination à l'égard des Africains de l'Ukraine. Cette sensibilisation d'ailleurs a poussé l'Union africaine à pouvoir dénoncer ce traitement.
However, the African Union says to be preoccupied by reports stating the fact Africans in Ukraine are being denied the right to cross the border in search of safety, as well as ill treatment to which they are subjected to. For this purpose, the Pan-African body urges all countries to respect international law and offer assistance to anyone fleeing war, regardless of his race.
On to our news in brief for this edition. Dr. Monique Sansabaganwa, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, congratulated the African Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC. It was on the occasion of the event Spotlight on Africa of the African Union. The African Regional Forum on Sustainable Development evaluates the implementations of Agenda 2030 and 2063. A high-level meeting held on March 8, 2022 on the occasion of the International Women's Day. Robert Tobokbi.
On the occasion of the assessment of the African Union activities, which focus on assessing and building resilient health systems in Africa, Monique Sansabaganwa, the Vice Chairperson of the Commission of African Union, seized the opportunity of her opening remarks to congratulate Africa CDC for its 5th anniversary. She says the Public Health Agency has become a key in the fight against infectious disease in Africa. According to her, healthy population and building strong and resilient health systems are key to achieving the African Union's Agenda 2063. The African Regional Forum on Sustainable Development 2022 took place under the theme Better Build a Green, Inclusive and Resilient Africa Ready to Achieve Agenda 2030 and Agenda 2063. It was from the 3rd to the 5th March 2022 at the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. This aid meeting assessed the progress made and exchanged knowledge, good practices and policy solutions that could support the implementation of 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals. The SDGs were discussed in depth on education, gender equality, among other areas. The Green Forum is an online interactive community space for professionals to share and discuss ideas in pursuit of a sustainable economic transition. A high-level discussion on the occasion of International Women's Day, organized under the theme Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Future, Innovative Solutions for the Financial and Economic Inclusion of African Women, took place on March 8, 2022. The event took place in a hybrid format with the African Union Commission as the framework for the face-to-face component. These discussions aimed to explore how financial services and frameworks have evolved and progressed to become more inclusive for women and the business economy as a whole, how business development agencies can work with women entrepreneurs to develop initiatives that improve and strengthen their financial capacity. The African Union's Directorate of Conferences and Publications Management wants to expand its list of freelancers, inviting qualified freelance interpreters for Kiswahili language category to apply online until the 31st March 2022. The institution urges volunteers to complete an online form with the presentation of curriculum vitae and other university degrees attached. A pre-selection will be carried out therefore and could lead to the offer of framework contract, thus allowing the Directorate of Conference Management and Publications, DCMP, to hire successful freelance candidates as their services are required. Organized by the African Union Commission, Department of Health, Humanitarian Affairs and Social Development, the fourth session of the Specialized Technical Committee on Social Development, Labor and Employment will be held in hybrid format from April 4 to 8, 2022 in Addis Ababa, in Ethiopia. It is inscribed under the theme, Building Better Well-Being and the Better Standards of Living in Africa. The meeting shed light on the COVID-19 health crisis, which has affected the well-being and standards of living of the people of Africa, thus touching on the indicators of the relevant target of aspiration, one of the first 10 years implementation plan of the African Union's Agenda 2063. Participants will adopt strategies and policy measures at regional and continental levels to improve the situation. Scheduled to be held from May 17 to 21st May 2022 in Kisumu, Kenya, the 9th AfriCities 2022 Summit will take place under the theme Role of International Cities in Africa in the Implementation of the UN 2030 Agenda and the African Union Agenda 2063. It is a unique platform for dialogue on decentralization and local governance in Africa, which brings together ministers, local elected officials, political leaders, and civil society organizations. The promoters define appropriate common strategies in order to improve the living conditions of the population at the local level while contributing to the promotion of peace and unity.
Since 2020, Dr. John Nkengasong has revealed himself as the emblematic figure in the fight against the coronavirus in Africa. The 61-year-old Cameroonian virologist, now director of the African Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC, has 30 years of experience as head of the virology laboratory in the HIV/AIDS division, responsible for testing and delivery of protective equipment. Joel Balo tells us more about him.
He is the emblematic figure of the health system in Africa. Dr. John Nkengasong, a native of Douala in Cameroon, is the first director of the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC. Since 2020, he has almost single-handedly embodied the fight against COVID-19 on the African continent.
Before this pandemic, absolutely no country on the continent was producing diagnostic tests. And those are severe vulnerabilities that we learned from this pandemic, that we saw that at the start of this pandemic, we'd have limited access to diagnostics. We saw that when vaccines were available, we had limited access to vaccines. And those are lessons that we must learn. But I'm very encouraged that now it's about 3 or 4 countries are now producing diagnostics.
At 61 years old, Dr. John Nkengasong has 30 years of professional experience in public health, a graduate of the University of Yaoundé. He then trained in tropical medicine in Belgium and the United States. He pilots the delivery of screening, tests, and protective equipment, coordinates the continental response to the virus, and promotes the benefits of various gestures to the general public.
In the history of the fighting diseases on the continent, that we saw the continent come together, mobilize their own resources to acquire 400 million doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccines. We are very encouraged to know that Egypt is now producing about 3.5 million doses of vaccines. That is the fill and finish, and they're working together with the Chinese. We just heard this week that the King of Morocco has launched a large vaccine manufacturing that will not just produce COVID vaccines, but other vaccines.
Before taking the helm of Africa CDC, the health branch of the African Union in 2016, Dr. Nkengasong, author of several articles, virologist by training, held the Associate Directorate of Laboratory Sciences and was appointed head of the branch of international laboratories in the global division of HIV, AIDS, and tuberculosis. While it is true that he has a long career internationally, it was during the global coronavirus pandemic that Dr. Nkengasong became better known.